guys, welcome back to Good by Greens. Today we are going to be making this mocha coconut butter. So if you'd like to see how I made this, just keep watching. So for your ingredients, you have some unsweetened coconut flakes. Now this is the main ingredient that you're going to need. As I make this, I will show you how to make just plain coconut butter first, and then you can stop there if that's all that you wish to make. If you want to make the mocha coconut butter, that's kind of a mouthful to say, and have the kind of texture that I like with the mocha coconut butter, you can continue using some cocoa powder, a little bit of espresso. Now you can also use strongly brewed coffee or substitute out water for that. A little bit of fleur de sel and some cinnamon, and then I also like to add maybe a teaspoon or so of vanilla towards the end as well. So let's get started. Okay, so first for our coconut butter, we have our unsweetened coconut flakes already in the food processor, and we can add the lid. Now I have a timer right here, and what I'm going to do is throughout the video, I will pause the food processor and show you where the timer is at, and then show you the consistency of the coconut butter. This way it's easier to follow along at home. So let's begin. So as you can see, let me see if I can tilt this forward a little bit. It's actually kind of looking very similar to the coconut flour if you watch that video. It's kind of fine, but it's not, it certainly hasn't completely broken down to be very like the flour yet. It's just still almost kind of a little bit thinner than like shredded coconut, but still not quite fine enough. So we're gonna continue, put our lid on, start our timer, and start our food processor. Okay, so now it's been 4 minutes. As you can see, the coconut is almost turning into like coconut meat, and it's starting to stick together. So if you actually kind of put a little bit in your hands and squeeze together, see how it kind of stays as a big clump? So we're getting closer. So now at this point is when you're going to have to start scraping down your food processor, because as you can see, some of the coconut meat is traveling up the sides and is not getting near the blade. Yet the stuff that is near the blade is really starting to fully come together and turn into coconut butter. So this is the consistency that it is right now. I would say it's kind of the consistency almost of like really wet sand. So we can just kind of scrape that down, scrape this off to make sure all of that stays in the food processor. And then we can put our lid back on and keep processing. Okay, so now here we are at 8 minutes. And we are getting really, really close. It's almost there. As you can see, this is almost like liquidy, or it's getting much more liquidy. It's now kind of probably a couple minutes away. So we can scrape this down again on the sides to make sure all the coconut stays towards the bottom near the blade. This is where you need to make sure you have really clean hands so that you can scrape the spoon off. And obviously, if you do still have some of these coconut chunks in your coconut butter, it's obviously not going to hurt you. It's more just the consistency. You want it to be smooth throughout. So that's why you're taking the time to kind of scrape down the sides of the food processor every few minutes. So let's do another minute and then we'll check in. So this is the consistency now. If you kind of pick it up with your spatula and hold it, it easily kind of drops back into the bowl, into the food processor. Now you are free to stop here, or you can continue moving forward with processing the coconut. If you look really closely, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show you, you could probably see it at that angle. You can kind of see that there's still a little bit of like graininess to it. And I like my coconut butter to be a little bit smoother. So we're going to continue to process it for another minute or two and see if we can smooth this out a little bit. So let's scrape this back into the bowl. And add our lid. Okay, so at 11 minutes, this is what our coconut butter is looking like. It's very liquidy. If you kind of just pick up a little bit on your rubber spatula, it easily drops back into the bowl if you see that. At this point, I am going to stop with processing it. Now you can certainly process it another couple minutes if you want an even finer texture, but at this point this is fine for me. So if you want to leave your coconut butter just like this, you can just take this and scrape it into a Tupperware container, some type of sealable container, and then you can store it. I actually store mine at room temperature. If you're a little bit worried at storing it at room temperature, you can store it in the refrigerator. It will harden, and so it's something that you kind of have to scrape and either reheat in the microwave a little bit to have it liquefy again, or something that you'll have to just kind of use as almost like a cold, very cold butter type of consistency. So if you just want plain coconut butter, this is it. If you want to make my Mocha coconut butter, you can continue with these steps. Now I mixed my unsweetened cocoa powder and my espresso in this small little bowl a couple minutes ago while the coconut butter was processing. And so you can see this is kind of a pretty liquidy consistency. So we're going to add that into our food processor. I'm gonna add just a pinch of my fleur de sel. You all know by now that's one of my favorite things to add to kind of bring out the sweetness and stuff. We have a little bit of cinnamon, also another favorite. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. Now we just need to let this, you can actually just pulse it if you want, or you can just turn it on and just blend it for about 15 seconds. Okay. So as you can see, this changes the texture a little bit, and that's from using the cocoa powder and the cinnamon. Now if you wanted to have it more of a liquidy consistency, you could just mix it with a little bit of melted dark chocolate along with some espresso or some strong coffee. But when you use the powdered stuff with to make it the unsweetened cocoa powder and using a little bit of the cinnamon, you will have a thicker consistency. So if you actually look at it now, it's no longer liquidy. It's almost kind of like a dough type of consistency. I don't know if you can see that. But my favorite way to eat this is spread over some cut up apple or a little bit of paleo pancakes or waffles or something like that. This also tastes great if you make them into small little balls, kind of like truffle size, and pop them into the fridge or into the freezer, and you can eat them as a great snack. So if you prefer the more liquid type of coconut butter, I would just stick to just being plain coconut butter. If you kind of like this, more of a very thick texture, something that's very spreadable onto something, it's not liquidy, or something that you would be able to actually roll up and store in the fridge or the freezer as a treat, then this recipe is for you.